games. It's ScrubGames. Double up. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames.
How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we have the next installment of my Understanding How to Build series, where we go over all the leaders in a given set to help you understand how to build them to suit you and your playstyle. So, we've done all the aggression leaders, and the last one we've got to do is Poe for this week before we move on to Cunning next week. So, we're going to go ahead and go on and understand him. So if you're interested in Poe, stay tuned, and also don't forget, you can like, comment, and subscribe to help out the channel, because we're still on our way to 2,000 subs, and we're getting close to it. And also, you can hit that notification bell to get alerts when my videos do drop, so you can watch them there and then, or at a later time that suits you best. So, without further ado, let's get into understanding how to build Poe Dameron. So, we're going to get into leader first, because Star Wars is a leader-based game, and without one, you can't really play it. So, we're going to get into understanding what he wants to do, because while some leaders are very generic, some have a certain focus. And for Poe, he's mainly about going on vehicles, because even though he doesn't have that brand new kind of deploy to pick where he wants to go, if he wants to go in the ground arena as a leader unit, or attached to a vehicle, he just has the normal deploy on the ground when he hits 5 more resources. But that does stop him from being a pilot, because he's also technically a pilot, because his effect is all about kind of being a pilot, because its effect is all about jumping on to vehicles without needing to deploy, which is pretty cool, so you can do it over and over again. Now with his traits, he does give you resistance of pilot, so he's got that benefit of the resistance stuff, but there isn't too much, so he might not use it fully, but he does have that available, and he's a pilot because he's technically a pilot. He also is in the aggression traits and heroic traits, so red and white, so you've got those benefits there, and he deploys quite early, not too early, but early enough at 5 resources, and there's some good shenanigans with his effects. Like there's some cards you can go ahead to use where he deploys in the ground arena, it doesn't deploy just as an upgrade, and where you can just jump on ships, you can do some cool things we'll get to later. So like I said, he basically is a pilot without having that alternative deploy now, because his effect in the leader area is an action, where by paying 1 and tapping him, so you still got to pay 1 resource, so you got to make sure you're a kind of a little bit behind on resources to be able to do this, but also tap him, and you get to flip this leader and attach him as an upgrade to a friendly vehicle that doesn't have a pilot on it. So you might be thinking, what about him with R2-D2? Well, that doesn't work because he's not technically attaching, he's not technically deploying or being played as an upgrade, whereas like R2-D2 will actually put additional ones on, so you can't work with that, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But he essentially has like almost infinite use of being able to jump on the pilots, jump on upgrades. So you can, he's a little bit better than the other ones where they can deploy once as a vehicle and a leader. He can do it over and over again. So if he gets defeated off one, you can just jump him back on. But do remember that if he is on a vehicle, gets defeated, he'll come back into the leader arena rested, so you can't use the effect. And then he's got an effect while he's deployed as well, because remember he deploys on 5 or more resources, but then when he does come out, if you deploy him as a leader, then he comes out as a 4/6 with no effect. So solid stats, because 6 is just out the range of takedown, and 4 is good solid power. But if you do use his effect attached to a vehicle, he then also comes with effects, because he gives that vehicle an extra 2 power and 1 health, so not too big on the stats, but then when you can keep deploying over and over again, well not deploying, but jumping on ships over and over again when he jumps off, you don't want to give him too big a power boost. But his effect when he's equipped is an action whereby, once again, paying 1, so he's got to make sure you're using that energy, you can't just do it for free. You can attach this upgrade to a friendly vehicle without a pilot on it, and you can use his ability once around. That means while he's equipped as an upgrade on a vehicle, you can jump him on another vehicle, so you can start jumping in from ship to ship. But you can do it once a turn, so bear that in mind. But it means that you can swing with him while he's on a ship, jump into another ship that's active to kind of push that one for a bit more damage, or even jump off a ship that's about to be defeated where it's low on health. So that's basically what he does. It's quite simple. So he's got more of a focus. He's not very generic, but he's got more of a focus on using vehicles, since he wants to jump on them and kind of pilot them. And also remember that as of set 2, we have a showcase for every single leader. Even the set 1 Vader and Luke now have a showcase leader that you can get, and this is Poe's. So remember that showcases are just alternative art, so if you like it, then that's fair enough. If you don't like it, that is also fair enough. Because with art, it's always subjective, so it always depends on your view, because you'll be the one playing it, so if you like it, go ahead and grab it. If you don't like it, don't worry, because you don't have to play it. So that is the leader, and yeah, hopefully that's helped you understand a little bit about the leader so you kind of know what the focus of him is. Now, I like to appeal to every kind of level of player for the series, so I don't just put in just like high level information. I like to put some basic information so that way new players don't have to just go wandering off somewhere else to watch something else to kind of learn the game. They can kind of learn it all in one go, because it's better to have watched one video than multiple videos just to learn how to play and things. So we're going to go over some basic information like bases, ratios, and aspects. So stay tuned if you need that information and you're brand new. If you aren't brand new and you feel like you're a veteran of the game and don't need this kind of information, then remember, feel free to go down to the comment, well, not the comments, but the description down below, the detail, yeah, the video description, and it's got some handy dandy kind of chapters and stuff that you can go ahead and basically just allow you to jump towards different parts of the video where you want to know noted for easy reference. So if you're looking for a specific thing, then you can go ahead and use that to jump to that part. So now we got out of the way, let's go ahead and get some basic information in for you newer players so you can kind of learn about how the game functions. So we now have bases. So that's the first bit of basic information we're going to have is bases, because just like a leader, they're essential things you need, because while a leader allows you to kind of build your deck around it and play a certain way, bases are how you determine if you win or lose the game. Because the only way to win in a game of Star Wars Unlimited is doing enough damage to a base equal to its health on it. So the health is located on the top left, and if you do enough damage equal to that amount on your opponent's base, you win. If they do it to you, they win. And currently there are two types of bases in the game at the moment. There are rare bases and there are common bases. Now there is a difference between the two, because rare bases have less or more health depending, and to adjust for that, they also have effects. So rare bases have effects on them, so things you can use, and they also, they're trying to benefit you, or you can use them there, and they have varying amounts of health to compensate for those effects. Where the common bases, they don't have any varying health, they're all 30 health, and they differ basically by art, name, and location stuff. So we can get into the bases, and we're going to start off with the rare ones. So, with the rare bases, we got 4 sets so far, and each set has bases in, but only 3 of the 4 have rare bases, because we skipped it in set 2. Each set of rare bases, well, from each set, also have a theme. Like with the first set, it's epic actions, so just like a deploy, they're actions that you can take once a game, and once you've used them up, that's it. And then you got for set 3, they're more Twin Suns focused, because they're all about leaders when they're deployed or when they're out on the board. And then the last one from set 4, they are bases that have a theme around deck size and also opening hands. So with the set 1 ones, which are the ones at the top here, they are all 25 health, and they have epic actions, you can use them once a game, and they vary in how great they are, because back in set 1 and 2, Energy Conversion Lab, or the Green 1 shortened to ECL for short, was the best base at that point. But now, after the hit of Boba, it's kind of like the meta's evolved a little bit, and now Target Sound is the supreme rare base that is used in the majority of decks, or even some of the best decks. So this just shows how the game's evolved with the bases switching up. Now the set 3 bases, I haven't put them on there because 1, there's enough space for this, and 2, they're not as great competitively as the rest of the bases, like ones we got in set 4 and set 1. So I haven't put them on to put the bases to actually kind of see more play. And the reason I say that is because Twin Suns allows you to have 2, you in that format you have 2 leaders. So with a base that's focused on how many leaders you have, like boosting your leader while it's out, or deploying, you're going to get more benefit when you can deploy 2 leaders rather than just 1. And they have effects where, while your leader's out, you can get either an extra power or extra health on that unit, on your leader, or when they deploy, it triggers effect, which with 2 leaders, obviously is going to be a bit better. But with the lower health on them or what they offer, they're not as great in the normal format. But in set 4, we got some really nice ones, because these are the ones that give us the first time ever that we had more health on a base than normal. Normally it was just low health on the rare bases, but now they're more health. And the effects kind of reflect the health, because the more health you have, the more negative the effect is. And where the lower health, the more positive the effect is. So, like I said as well, these are bases from set 4. Either increase your deck size or mess with your opening hand. And the ones that mess with your opening hand are Colossus and Nabat Village, so the blue and yellow one. Colossus has extra 5 health, so 35 health, which is a lot, and the kind of give you a downside for that extra health is you draw one less card in your opening hand. So rather than starting with 6, you start off with 5, which can seem bad, might not seem too bad, but it depends on how you feel with that extra card. So you need to determine for yourself if you feel that one less card is worth the 5 extra health. Now for an About Village, this allows you to start off with 9 cards in your opening hand, but you can't mulligan. And if you didn't know, a mulligan is where you can basically put your entire hand back into your deck, shuffle up, and draw a brand new hand. You can do it once a game. So that means in a normal game for any normal base, you get a look at 12 cards in total, two hands of 6, so you open 6 cards in your hand. Then you mulligan, look at another 6 cards. So that allows you to give a lot more cards, but only 2 goes, so 2 lots of 6. Whereas in About Village, gets rid of your mulligans, so now you only have 1 hand, and that's it, you stick with that. But you see 9 cards out of 6, you see an extra 50% of cards in your opening hand, which is cool. And you don't get to keep them because it's going to never affect where they start the first action phase. You need to put 3 of those cards from your hand at the bottom of your deck in the order you choose. So you don't get to keep those extra 3 cards, but what it allows you to do is keep that consistency in your opening hand, allowing you to make sure you've got a turn 1 play, or if you're playing a combo deck, that you're then going ahead and seeing those combo pieces and the things you need to start off the game. So that is those 2 bases. Now the other bases are all about deck building size. So what they do is either increase or decrease your minimum deck size, and like you probably guessed, the more health you have, the more deck cards you need to have in deck. Or the less health you have, the less cards you need to have in deck. So Data Vault and Thermal Slayer are those bases, with Data Vault having 33 health, and an extra 3 health forces you to have extra 10 cards in deck. So rather than have a 50 card minimum, you have a 60 card minimum, which might not seem too bad, but depends how you feel there. Whereas Thermal Oscillator has 3 less health at 27, but it decreases your minimum deck size by 5. So there's a lot more cards to increase, but a lot less cards to decrease. But that makes sense because otherwise you're decreasing by 10 for both. Also, Thermal Slayer could be really good because in a 40 card deck, it makes it even more consistent. Remember, the less cards you have in your deck, the more consistent it is. Where the more cards you have in deck, the less consistent it is. And Thermal Slayer making your deck now be 45 minimum instead of 50 is pretty decent. So those are rare bases, but if you feel like any of those bases aren't really worth it, like you don't really think the effects and lower health is worth anything, you can always play a 30 health base or a common base, or like they call them, vanilla bases. I call them vanilla bases because essentially that's a term in TCGs for when something doesn't have any effect. They're normally called vanilla because they're just plain. Now, with the vanilla bases, there is no difference in base. They all have 30 health, and the only way they differ is by aspect, name, location, and art. And considering that in Step 4, or as of Step 4, there's no benefit to having a certain location or name on a base. You just pick whatever aspect you want for a base, and then you pick your favorite art in that one, and then there you go. You pick that base. Now these are my preferred ones because you got the top ones being the new Hyperspace Foil, which is a first for vanilla bases that you get from the new Twin Suns Game Genic deck boxes, and then the bottom ones are my preferred arts from the new set for each aspect. So these I like to have 2 because then I have one for the heroic leaders and one for the villain leaders just to have kind of some thematicness for that. But that's the bases. Now we're going to get into the aspects to make you, so you understand it a little bit more. So there are 6 aspects in this game. There are the 4 color ones and the 2 white and black ones, being the ones you get across all cards in the game. But there are some cards, well, I say all cards, but most cards in the game because there are some cards that don't have any aspects on. So they're basically grey. And now you'll find the villainy and heroism on all leaders to show if they're on the dark or light side, and also on some cards in the game. Whereas you'll find the 4 color ones across all leaders and bases, and also as well as among most cards in the game. Now each have a specific way of play, so I'm going to quickly go over that to help you understand when you would want to play that certain archetype or that certain aspect, or if they kind of suit your playstyle. So starting off with blue, being Vigilance, this is a very defensive aspect. And I say that because it allows you to heal up things like your base or leaders, well, bases or units. You also get to defend yourself using things like shields and sentinels, and also get nice bits of removal in there with removal effects and events. Now, if you're like a very patient and controlling game style, then Vigilance is a perfect one for you because it's exactly what it embodies, so go ahead and try that. Now for command, this is the ramp aspect. Now any game that has a resource management or resources to kind of play things usually have a ramp aspect or color or type, so that way you can increase the amount of things you need to play cards, so that way you can play more things or bigger things quicker. And that is exactly what command is. It's the ramp aspect, so it allows you to play out more things quicker or bigger things quickly by ramping up your resources and just overwhelm your opponent. So if you like to overwhelm your opponent with huge things or many things, then Command is the perfect aspect for you. Next we have Aggression, and this is nice because if you do like this one when we go over it, then luckily for you, Poe has this equipped to him as one of the aspects on him. So Aggression, just like the name suggests, is a very aggressive aspect. It's all about aggro, because it's all about focusing on damage, and it's got some unique cards in that it has also upgrade removal, which is helpful for the new pilot mechanic. So if you like to play a very aggressive playstyle, like play aggro and throw out damage willy-nilly to try and retrieve victory as quick as possible, then Aggression is a perfect aspect for you, and luckily with Poe, you get that already. Then we have Cunning, and Cunning is a jack of all trades aspect, because it has an answer for almost anything you'll throw at you, and have an answer for anything they might want to do. So if you like to have answers for any situation, and respond to things very quickly and easily, then Cunning is a perfect aspect, and probably one of the strongest in the game. Then that brings us to these two next ones. These ones are quite unique, and unlike the other ones, they can not only be on cards on their own, but they can also be partnered with the other aspects as well. You have Villainy here, which features all the antagonists of the Star Wars universe, and it features very controlling and destructive effects. And then you have Heroism, which we've got on Poe, which is the one that focuses all the protagonists of the Star Wars universe, and features very rebellious and assisting helpful kind of effects where they assist each other. So those are the aspects. So if you feel like you fit into any certain one, you can go ahead and try that, and we will get into the benefits of each one and what they kind of offer. But remember, we have a leader and a base. So since we get two aspects on our leader, which automatically means we're going to have Aggression and Heroism, with a base in the mix you get 3 aspects. And considering there's only 4 other aspects that go on the bases, being the first 4 color ones, then we get 4 different combinations. And these are the aspect combos you can get. So with a blue base, you have access to red and blue. With a green base, you get access to red and green. Now with a red base, you've already got red on Poe, but it gives you access to those double aspect cards, which means you're sacrificing a whole other aspect to have access to these double aspect cards, which is quite powerful, but you need to determine if it's worth it for any leader. Because every leader can go into it, but you need to determine if it works well with your leader. And then lastly, if we have a yellow base, we have access to red-yellow as well. So like I said, we're going to get into what these benefits of these aspect combos are, but first there's one last little bit of the aspects we need to cover, and that is the aspect penalty. Now in this game, you can put any card you want in your deck, absolutely anything card you want in your deck, except if it's suspended, which currently is just a Boba leader. So that's pretty nice, isn't it? But when it comes to actually playing the card, that is when the aspect penalty comes into effect. Because if you didn't know what it is, essentially if you want to play a card, and the aspects on that card don't match what's on either your leader or your base, then you have to pay an additional 2 resources on top of that card's cost for every aspect that doesn't match. So I like to improve this series to make sure we have all different ways to learn, because people will learn in different ways. Some people learn by listening, some people learn by seeing, some people learn by doing. So to make sure this is all covered, I meant to make sure we've got something a nice visual. Also, I explain it as well as possible, and so you can go ahead and try it yourself. So this one, we've got a base and leader combo, for example. So we've got Poe with a green base that gives access to Heroism, Aggression, and Command. Or if we go in color terms, white, red, and green. So if we were to play a card and it has all the aspects on it, match what's on your leader and or base here, which is shown in the top box, then you pay no additional cost, you just pay the cost of the card. But now, if we want to play a card and one of those aspects on that card we want to play doesn't match what's on your leader and base, you have to pay an additional 2 on top, so it's shown in the second box for an example, with this leader-based combo. And that would mean, for example, if we had a 2-cost card, we had one aspect on it that doesn't match, actually an extra 2 on top of that card's cost, mean now instead of costing 2, it costs 4, and that's double the cost, so do bear that in mind. Another thing to bear in mind as well, as of thinking about it, is that each aspect only provides one of itself. So if you want to play a card that is double red, for example, you get 1 red aspect from Poe, but since you don't have a second one because we've got a green base, you have to pay an extra 2 resources on top to cover that second red one because we don't have 2 red aspects, we only have 1 thanks to Poe. And then lastly, for the more expensive one, we've got the 4 additional costs. So if you want to play a card that has 2 aspects and both those aspects don't match what's on your leader and or base, you have to pay an additional 4 on top, meaning, for an example again, a 2-cost card will now cost 6, and that's triple the cost, which means it's a lot more costly and a huge tax on it. So do bear in mind with the asset penalty, and also do bear in mind that while the asset penalty will make a card a bit more expensive, sometimes it's worth it, because sometimes you have cards that are just don't match the aspects you have, but you still want to play it because it's very useful with that leader or the kind of aim of your deck, that you'll still play it out of aspect. A best example of that is the double aspect events from set 1. Now, these are 4-cost events that offer 4 effects, and you can choose any 2 among them and play them however you like, or in whatever order you choose. And since these are double aspect cards, sometimes you not want to play double aspect just to access those cards, but in dual aspect decks you want to play those in so you can have the benefit. But now they're going to cost 6 instead of 4, but sometimes that's worth it because of what they do. So bear in mind that while the aspect penalty might make a card more expensive, sometimes the effect of the card is worth paying extra cost on it. So that is the aspect penalty. Now we're going to go to the last bit of basic information for you, and that is about ratios. So for the ratios, there is a certain amount of copies of any given card you can play, and in every game it differs, but in Star Wars you can play up to 3 copies of a card. Now what I'm going to do with this little bit is explain how and when you would want to play 3, 2 or 1 copies of any given card. So starting with 3 copies of a card, this is the ratio to help maximize the likelihood the desired card will be in your hand when needed, and examples are being cards you play on the first turn of the game, or cards you want to see multiple copies over the course of the game. So I tried to make a more specific example to each leader, but it was coming to be a bit more difficult, so I decided to go with generic ones. And Resupply is the perfect one, because it's a ramp card, so if you're playing green you're playing ramp, and it's a ramp card that you can play as early as possible, as turn 2. And it's available in both aspects of the game, because you can play it both in Heroism and Villainy, because it doesn't have either of those traits on, they're locked to one of the others. And it can be played quickly at turn 2, start you ramping up to either deploy quicker, or play things out that are bigger quicker. This is a simple card, you play it, put it into play as a resource, easy job, done. So these are that's a good example of when you would have 3 copies of a card to make sure you can see it as early as turn 2 when you can play it, so you can start ramping up as quick as possible. Next we have the 2 copies of a card, and this is usually a ratio for cards that aren't great to draw early in the game, but you still want to go over multiple copies over the course of the game. So the perfect examples are like big boss cards or high costing cards, and Rival's Fault is a good example, because it's a high costing card at 6, so you don't want it early, but you want it later on in the game because it can defeat any unit. And that's nice because with removal events, or removal effects, the more costly they are, the less restrictive they are, but the lower the cost, then the more restrictive they are. I say that because you got some cards that also don't hit leader units, let's say non-leader unit, and have a specifics of what it can hit, or just non-leader unit. And Rival's Fault is perfect because it hits any unit, so it can hit even leaders. And in the beginning of the game, you're not going to want this because you are going to resource it, which means you lose access to it, or you're going to keep it in your hand, and that's going to reduce the amount of options you have in your hand because you're holding onto this ready to use it because you've got it. But if you have only 2 copies, maybe you'll not see it early in the game, but you'll see it late in the game. So when you put deploy as a leader, you can go bang and take it out with this. And then we've got the last one being 1 copies of a card. This is sometimes referred to as tech choice as well, because it's usually is a ratio for cards that are added to the deck in order to counter a specific situation. Now the example I use this for is being like the example I use for this is Restock, and this is because that's a card added to decks to help counter hard control decks. Because like hard control kind of suggests, it's focusing solely on control, meaning you want to keep in control of the game so that way you never have any leeway and they're always fully in control of the game. And that means they're not going to be pushing damage. Remember, the only way to win is to do damage to a base equal to the health on it. So they're reliant on deck out damage. And what deck out damage is essentially if you go to draw a card and you can't, you'll take 3 damage for every card you can't draw. So if you can't draw if you can't draw 1 card, that's 3 damage. If you can't draw 2 cards, that's 6 damage. So they rely on this damage by decking you out and having that way to deal damage to your base to win the game. But if you have Restock, you can use it to put up to 4 cards in a discard pile on the bottom of the owner's deck in a random order. And with how the game works, you can put itself as one of those copies, so you can recycle it and loop it over and over again. That means you'll then never deck out, and your opponent will have to find a different way to deal damage to you rather than relying on that damage. So hopefully that's helped you understand about the ratios and when you want like 1, 2, or 3 copies of a card in the deck. And now that we've got the basic information out of the way for all you brand new players, we're going to go into the specifics on the different aspects that Poe can benefit from. Right, so the first thing I like to do is go with a double aspect, because this is one that limits what you have, because by going double aspect you lose access to a whole other aspects or a whole plethora of cards and have access to just these 10 cards at the moment as a set 4. because in each set so far we've got 3 double aspect cards. So you're sacrificing. So in the first set of the game, you are sacrificing a whole other aspect that have access to 3 cards. So you're losing one aspect that has loads of cards for just 3. Whereas now we've got more sets, we've got more of them. And for the first 3 sets, we got 3 cards in each one. And then for set 4, we only got 1. So we've got 10 double aspect cards. Now, when going double aspect, you have to think, what benefits do your leader get with it? And we're going to see with that, because remember, with Poe, we got to focus on vehicles, and currently, as you can see, there's only 1 vehicle in the double aspects. So, for the cards we got the set 1 ones, being Saw Gerrera, Rallying Cry, and Aggression. Now, these, probably Aggression is the best one out of them, because it's one of those ones that is named after the aspect, 4 cost, offers 4 effects, and you can choose any 2 and resolve them. So the nice effects you got there is like draw a card, knock off upgrades, or deal damage as the main ones you're going to be using, and that's pretty nice. But then with the other 2, Saw Gerrera isn't a vehicle you can attach Poe on, so it's not going to get any benefit there. And even though it's a 4 cost 5/4, its effect is all about events, which not every deck has a lot of, or most of them in your deck, so you're not going to hit too much. And without where its stats is, it can easily get taken out, so it's not worth it. Then Rallying Cry as well. This is one where you need to have a huge board to kind of get the full benefit of this. And that means you have to spend time building up a board for it, hoping to keep it there, and then take actions to be able to use this, because you need to use an action to use this to give all your units raid 2, and even attack with those units, which is going to take like many actions to do. And if in between those actions that your units get taken out, you're not going to get full benefit, and you're going to lose out on trying to set up that up, so it's not the greatest there. Then from set 2 we had Bo-Katan Increase, Wild Rancor, and also Chaos of War. Now these ones, probably Bo-Katan Increase and Chaos of War are pretty nice, because Bo-Katan is a good turn 1 play. Solid stats for its cost, just like Battlefield Marine is in green. And it also has effects with controlling more cards depending on the damage on base. Chaos of War is the other good one, where it can do damage to help you be more aggressive and do damage to base. But it relies on cards in hand, so it can potentially do more damage than things like For a Cause of Believing, or less damage depending on what's in the hand, or how much a hand your opponent has. And it also hits you as well as your opponent, so do bear in mind that could be a double-edged sword. Then you got Wild Rancor, which isn't, once again, a vehicle, so it's not benefiting you. It's high costing, and it kind of does damage to you as well as your opponent, so it might be the best thing to play, especially when you got Relentless Fire Spray as well in the same cost. Now for set 3 we got Mr. Bones, Twisted Pride, and Unlimited Power. The Limit Power is not great because it does do a lot of damage, up to 10 damage in total, but it does it across 4 different units. You can't choose the same unit twice. And it's high costing at 6, which means unless your opponent's got a wide board, and you can potentially take out all the units with this, it's not really worth it. And Mr. Bones is pretty good for its cost and stats, but its effect relies on, well, for one, it's not a vehicle, and 2, its effect relies on having no cards in hand, and you kind of don't want to have this in that deck because it's not what our focus is of the strategy. But then you got Twisted Pride, and this could be pretty nice because it's a 2 cost upgrade that can put out any unit, even vehicles, and it gives a huge power boost at 4 extra power. The only downside is when it's played on a unit, it gives it 2 damage, so you 2 take damage to put it on. But it could be a way to kind of boost up something massively, so you can put that last game-winning swing in. Then the last one is Relentless Fire Spray, which is a pretty good one. It's a vehicle, so once again, that's a vehicle for Poe to jump onto. And it's pretty nice, and it's a 6 cost 4/6, so it's at the range of like Fellow Dragon and Takedown, and also it's a nice effect when it attacks, it readies itself, and you can use that once a game. But the only problem is, in red you don't have any aggression, like ambush, so you can't really play it out ambush. You can basically get the effect straight off and start attacking something unit, take it out, and then potentially attack the base as well, and get full use of it straight away, so you have to wait a turn to use it. And within that turn, it can potentially be taken out, so it's maybe not best to focus on that. So while there are some strong cards in here, I don't think this is the best way to go for Poe. But I like to make sure it's covered, just in case you ask, what about double aspect? Is that worth it? Not really at the moment. Now, before we go on to what kind of benefits you have when you mix a different base of Poe, we first want to see what Poe brings to the table itself. Because remember, he brings the aggression aspect and also the heroic side of it. And you got a lot of good aggression stuff for it. Like, you got a load of good spaceships you can go on turn 1. Because remember, Poe can do the whole thing of paying 1 and sapping himself to chuck himself on a vehicle to power up. And also then this just pilot and push more damage. And that means you want to have some good turn 1 units. You got a load of good ones in his own aspect. So you got like Green Squadron, Black One, Anakin's Interceptor, and Red Squadron as good turn 1 plays that have solid stats, solid bulk. They all have 3 health, so they're quite bulky. Well, not too bulky, but decent amount of bulk. And also offer good power. Like, they can all hit for quite a lot of damage, depending. And even Black One, while you got Poe as a leader, either our leader or an upgrade on it, you can give it do an extra damage to a unit when you swing, and it gets powered up depending on if it's got upgraded. So you got some pretty nice ones there, good turn 1 plays, and then for turns after, you've also got good units like Red 5, and also some good other pilots you can put on units like Biggs. And you also got some pretty nice events as well, like you got 4 Calls of Believing to push more damage if you can see more heroics, which is pretty nice, and even heroic sacrifice to be able to swing more damage, draw a card, and but then the thing is the unit gets defeated. But the nice thing with heroic sacrifice is where Poe doesn't deploy as upgrade on a unit, you could potentially put Poe on a vehicle that can attack that turn. Heroic Sacrifice to then swing with it, give it extra 2 power, draw a card, but then it's defeated after. But then you swing for a lot more damage because you get extra 2 power from Poe on the unit, and extra 2 power from Heroic, so extra 4 on top of whatever unit that unit's power is, what vehicle's power is. Push that damage through, Poe goes back to the leader area, but then you can deploy into the ground arena and then swing again for an extra 4 damage, which makes for a pretty nice play. And also remember, we got the other side of aggression as well, so it's not just the heroic side, we got the normal side. And I have realized I put force throw in it, but then still hand control if you want to use it, so it's not great, because remember there's a lot of synergies between Poe and Luke. They're quite similar with the whole focus on vehicles, but the rest remain the same, because you got some pretty nice cards, like you got Determined Recruit as a good pilot. Sing Fang Fighter is a nice vehicle that can also knock off upgrades and knock off your opponent's pilots as well. Tarka, which is a nice way to boost up your vehicles, so even more powerful when you put Luke on them as well, and give him overwhelm. Well, put Poe on them and then with overwhelm. And you've got Cham as a way to go ahead and ramp. So if you're behind on resources, it's like the only ramp card outside of green, I think, which is pretty nice. So you can use Cham to ramp if you're behind and give you a solid unit, cause just like how because it's the same kind of stats as Saul Guerrero, but it's actually doing something useful, unlike Saul. And in one of the events, you got some pretty nice ones. Like I said, Force Throw is kind of, I forgot to amend that to change to something else, but still is a hand control card. You might not have any force in this, but you can use it as a way to kind of take out cards from your opponent's hand, because red does have, aggression does have some hand control stuff. And you got some, like, stay on the target, letting you attack with a vehicle, get it 2 power, and if it does damage your base, draw cards, it's more draw and more damage. This is like a mini kind of surprise strike, but for vehicles out of your draw as well. Like less damage, but you get a draw. You also got damaging events like Open Fire as well, and only do damage by using the event, and even more hand control and things like Pillage as well, which is pretty cool. So that's all that's some kind of things that Poe has to offer thanks to his his aspects. Now we're going to move on to the other aspects when we put a base in the mix. So we have Vigilance as the first one. So remember, this is a more defensive one and more control-y, so you can play it as more a way to grind out and make sure you've got the healing as well to survive longer. And you've got some pretty nice vehicles you can make use of Poe. Like you've got a good turn 1 in Restored Arc, which solid stats just like we saw the ones that he has to offer in his own aspects. And also, but this one offers you Restore, meaning you can heal base when you swing, so you can turn him into a 4/4 with Poe and heal up damage. You also got other good ones as well. Like your turn 2 plays could be Concord Ornate Interceptors or Red Squadron X-Wing, which either give you a good Sentinel in the space, or can give you a way to draw more cards, like with Red Squadron. And then you got Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite is a pretty nice one, allowing it to deal damage to itself, and then deal 2 damage to Everspace units, so you can kind of take out Everspace units quite easily. And you got some good pilots as well, like you got Hera and Cassian as ever pilots you can chuck on some of these space units. Also, don't forget, it's not just in space focus, you might want to have put some other stuff, and some good cards you've got in Vigilance as well are things like Vigil Protectors, protect your ground arena as a Sentinel, and also comes in shielded, or even Luke as a big endgame kind of boss card you can put in as well. And in the non-heroic side of Vigilance, you got some pretty nice stuff. Like you got some other good pilots like Astromech pilot, which allow you to heal 2 damage from a unit, not just the unit you put it on, but any other unit you can put on one ship and heal a different ship, which is cool. And you've also got some good vehicles as well. Like you've got Padawan Starfire, which is a pretty solid one. Now, this it does have more focus on a force, but then if you've got a unit like a pilot like Luke and stuff that's got force, you can check that on, which is cool, and I get the benefit there. And you even got some nice spaceships like Cloak Star Viper and System Trollcraft, which are pretty nice ones. The Cloak Star Viper comes in with 2 shields, so when you play it, you got 2 shields. You can put Poe on it, and then it becomes a 5/3 that then has 2 shields, so it's harder to take out. And then you got System Patrolcraft, which you can put Poe on it and become a 5/5 Sentinel in space, which is pretty nice. You also have some pretty good upgrades and also events, like you got Paris Vision being a very nice one. First one, the minus stats, and also exhaust the unit you put on. And also some nice events, like you got evidence of the crime to move about a upgrade, so you can take upgrades off your opponent and take control of it, put in yours, or you can move around as well, however you choose, and also take control of them. And you even got removal events like take down and Rivals Fall. So if you like a more controlling way and defensive way to play, but also still making good use of Poe, then Vigilance could be a good one for you. Next we have Command. This is usually the aspect combo that works very, very well if you want to be aggressive and with the heroic side, because it offers a lot of good stuff, and you've got a load of good ships as well. So you've got some good ones here, like you see they're going up like turn by turn. You've got Phoenix Squadron for good turn 1, solid stats. So you can turn it into a 5-3 on turn 2 and just hit hard. You got Blue Leader as well, which has ambush. You can attack the same turn, and even switch down and basically depend on how many resources you got. And if you want to pay those extra ones to go into different arenas, either stay in the space arena or go to ground. You got Bright Hope being a very good sentinel. You can even put Poe on to make it even more bulkier and hit harder, which is cool. And even Ho 1, which just basically gives you a lot of healing what's on board, giving everything else restore, and even play out things for free from your discard as well. Well, not free, but at a reduced cost. And you also got some really good pilots you can chuck on as well. You got Luke, which is a nice one, which then, if he's defeated on a unit, comes into play in the ground arena. Poe in the unit form, which can then make a space unit to jump on, or basically you can choose not put on as a pilot or put on as a pilot, depending. And you also got Chewbacca as well, which then is great against those high control decks or control decks, because it makes whatever is put on not able to be bounce, which is a kind of anti-yellow, and also not be defeated, which is kind of anti-blue. So it's pretty nice because it has that effect either when it's deployed as a unit or as an upgrade. And then you got U-Wing Reinforcement to be able to, for later in the game, like with Home 1, to spam up the board with loads of little things or one big thing, which is cool. Also, in the non-heroic side of Command, you got some pretty nice stuff. Like you got more pilots, like Clone Pilot and Jarek Jaeger. You got those as pretty good pilots. You also got some good vehicles that not only in space but in ground, like you got Clone Combat Squadron, Resupply Carrier, and Reinforcement Walker. The first two being good space units, where a Clone Combat Squadron gets more power for each ever space unit you've got. So the more space you have out, the bigger it gets, and it's something you can put on Poe to make it even stronger. And then you got Resupply Carrier as well, being a way to ramp, so more ramp as well, and even in space units. And Reinforcement being like one of those ones you can put on the ground, so you don't have to always go on space, you go on ground. And having Poe drive a Reinforcement Walker could be pretty funny, and it's the one that gives you some healing or even some draws depending on what you want to choose. Then you got some nice events, like we've said, we've got Resupply as a way to ramp. You've also got Eject as a way to kind of have some good shenanigans by knocking a pilot off an upgrade, off a unit. So it could be either yours or your opponent's, and you still get to draw one, so you can either save something on yours, one of your pilots that are about to be taken out, by moving it off the unit is on to the ground arena and then drawing a card, or knock pilots off your opponent's spaceships or vehicles and draw a card as well, so knock them off so that unit's not as powerful and you don't have to worry too much. And you even got things like Timed Intervention, which can give you ambush. Ambush is such a great skill, and having it on an event, remember you still have to pay the cost of the card, is great, and you can even smuggle this in. So if you want a very aggressive kind of way to play and something that offers some very good spaceships or vehicles that you can play Poe on, then Command could be a good one for you. And that brings us to the last aspect, being Cunning. Now this offers some pretty nice space shops that can attack straight away, like they have ambush, or just basically be able to ready to play the attack straight away. So you've got things like Fireball, Aztec Liberator, and Millennium Falcon 6-drop that could all have ambush, so they can attack the same turn they're played, so they can start attacking and taking things out quicker. And you even got the 3-drop legendary Millennium Falcon that can come in active ready to attack straight away. Now the downside in keeping it in play after it's been played is you have to keep tapping one of your resources at the start of every turn, or at the end of every turn. So you do have that kind of tax, but it's one that is pretty good for its stats, comes in active so it can attack straight away and can finish off game. And you even got some nice ever pilots as well, like Dagger Squadron and Han Solo being very good pilots. And some good events as well, like Spark Rebellion and Bamboozle for a nice bit of control there. Now remember, there is also the non-heroic side, so you've got the other side, Cunning. Cunning offers a load of good events as well. That's the nice thing, is it offers a load of good events. And you got some good units as well, like you got Independent Stargate as a good pilot, and you got some good vehicles as well. Now, the one thing is, I normally have Outer Rim Headhunter in this to kind of showcase that if you put a leader unit, a leader as an upgrade on it, it makes it a leader unit. But the thing with Poe is, unlike, even though he can go on units, he doesn't give that unit the benefit of being a leader unit. So unfortunately, you won't get the benefit of Outer Rim Headhunter by having Poe on it, because he's not a leader. He doesn't make the unit attached to it a leader unit. But if he's on the ground arena, then as you deploy it, then there is, or eject it off if you want to go out of aspect. You can then make it have a leader unit to make the benefit of. But then you've got things like Landspeeder, which can ambush on turn 1 to attack whatever's on the ground, while also then being a vehicle you can put Poe on. So Poe in a ground arena unit, which is cool. And then Chino's Starfighter is a pretty nice one, even off its bounce, it can play out a bit cheaper, which is really cool. Then next things you've got things like some nice events, like you got Breaking In and Surprise Strike, which are very good units, especially if you go turn 1, make a turn 1 play, then turn 2, pay 1 to put Poe on a space unit, then you've got 2 resources out, then use one of these, which allow you to attack with the unit, and you've put Poe on, and give it more powerful attacks, either 3 extra power with Surprise Strike, or 2 extra but ignoring Sentinels thanks to Saboteur with Breaking In. And then you got things like Waylay the bounce units, and even Commandeer, so you can just take one of your opponent's unit that doesn't have a, one of your opponent's vehicle units doesn't have has a 6 cost or less, that doesn't have a pilot on it, take control of that, potentially pop Poe on it, then swing with it, because it readies it as well, but then they get back to your hand, so you get Poe back in your lead arena, and then you get their unit back to the hand. So some pretty nice stuff. If you want to be very, very aggressive, and then options for control as well, Cunning is a good option to go for. Also remember, like I said, with Heroism, it doesn't just attach to other aspects, it can go on its own card as well, and it's a pretty nice card you can get for Heroism. So you've got R2 as a very nice pilot. Remember, there's one thing you can't do with this is put this on a unit and then put Poe on it as well, because thing was it, if you put Poe on a unit and then put R2 after, it can, because R2 can be played on a friendly vehicle unit that already has a pilot on it. So if Poe's already on it, then you can put R2 on it. But if R2's on a unit, you can't then put Poe on it, because the thing with Poe is it says you may play or deploy an additional pilot on it, but Poe doesn't deploy or play on a vehicle. It attaches, which because of the wording, you can't put this on. You can't use Poe to jump on a unit R2's already on, because it's got a pilot on it, and it can only jump on units that don't have a pilot. So if it's R2 already on it, then Poe can, but if Poe goes on it, R2 can go on after. And you also got some other good vehicles you can put Poe on, like you got the Grey Squadron Y-Wing, Millennium Falcon, and Sabine's Masterpiece, but pretty nice ones there that you can just pop Poe on and just cause some havoc with as well. There are more other Heroism cards. These are the 4 that I thought are the best to showcase, but there are other ones as well. And then that brings us to the last bit, being my preferred aspects, because people did start asking in the first few series of the series for the first few sets, what kind of way would I play? Because sometimes you go through all this and you're still unsure, but a little bit of help might go to an extra bit of way to helping you out, determine how you want to build it and play it. And I decided to put my preferred aspects in because people were asking for it, so I might as well put it in. And what I put in is, if I would play a Poe, I would play Poe with green, because I like how many really good kind of vehicles there are, some good pilots are green, so you can make use of if your opponent is focused on what Poe's on, you can then put a pilot on another unit, so you have to worry about that, and then some really good strong pilots like Luke and Chewbacca. And if I wasn't playing green, I'd probably play blue for nice control, because I do love the blue aspect, and you get some pretty nice vehicles in that, and nice removal events. Those units can then go ahead and keep around where you're taking out whatever is a problem to them. So that's how I play. I'll play either Command or Vigilance if I want to play Poe. And that brings us to the end of the video. So hopefully it's helped you understand how to play Poe, or how to build Poe to suit you and your playstyle. And now you can go about going ahead and build him and give him a try and enjoy him. So that's it from me today. So thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, that is all the aggression leaders for today, or for this week. And now for next week, we'll start the last lot, being the Cunning leaders. If you're looking forward to those, stay tuned for next week. And I'll catch you next one, because that is it from me. Thank you, and see you next one. Bye for now.